Newsfirst at 9.
Bringing you the latest from here at home and across the world from the Newsfirst Centre in Colombo. A very good evening. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
And I'm Sharon Silva. Let's start off with a look at your headlines.
Headlines on Newsfirst at 9.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that the army will not get involved in the elections. Number of complaints of election law violations rises to 450. Misuse of state property on the rise. Free trade agreement with 100% tax freedom to be inked with China. A statement from the Minister of Investment Promotion. Right to education of 15 students continues to be shackled due to a delay on the part of the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission. Leader of Bangladesh's Jamaat-e-Islami party sentenced to death for war crimes.
Newsfirst at 9.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that he hopes Navi Pillay, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, will submit a fair report at the UNHRC sessions.
Now, the President made this comment in an exclusive interview with Indian-based media organization, the Hindustan Times.
In an interview with the Hindustan Times, President Rajapaksa said that all international laws that are made by big and powerful countries only apply to weaker countries like Sri Lanka. The head of state said that this system should be revamped. The President also ruled out the alleged involvement of the army in the polls and said, quote, "I will say this once and for all. The army is not participating in the polls, but merely providing security," unquote. In the interview with the Hindustan Times, the President also said that the relationship between the government of India and Sri Lanka is very good, and added that Sri Lanka will never allow any country to act against India's interests from Sri Lankan soil.
This is Newsfirst, Election Headquarters.
We are 4 days away from the provincial council polls that will be held for the northern, central and northwestern provinces.
As the election draws closer, the number of incidents of election-related violence has been increasing.
Now, the election secretariat says that so far 450 complaints regarding the the violation of election laws and acts of violence have been reported.
The Complaints Unit of the Election Secretariat notes that the highest number of complaints were reported from the Kurunegala district, with the number standing at 107. The Election Secretariat adds that 52 complaints on acts of violence have also been reported. It says that a large number of complaints were also filed regarding the employment of public officials for elections-related activities. According to the Election Secretariat, 60 complaints relating to the use of state vehicles and 19 complaints relating to the use of state property for election activities were also reported.
Convening a media briefing today, Transparency International Sri Lanka commented on public officials being employed in election campaigning.
The use of public officials for various election campaign activities, notably the encouragement of some Urdu officials and field-level officials to participate in election campaigning, is especially widespread in the northwestern province. I too served as a public official at one time, and if a governor of a province who is appointed by the President can participate in election campaigning, then the secretaries of ministries who are also appointed by the President can participate in election campaigning. What will happen to the country if this is the case?
විශේෂයෙන් උතුරු පළාතේදී
Material and human resources belonging to the respective departments and ministries are being openly used, especially in the northern province, as a result of ministers coordinating secretaries and advisors contesting the elections in that province. If we are to analyze this, we can specifically point out the Ministry of Economic Development, the Ministry of Cooperatives and Internal Trade, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, the Ministry of Sports, the Ministry of Land, the Ministry of Construction, Engineering Services and Housing, the Ministry of Rehabilitation and Prisons, and the Ministry of Cultural Affairs.
The Ministry of Economic Development says that reports concerning its employees and officials engaging in political activities are completely false.
The communique notes that reports of graduate trainees and development officials from the Ministry of Economic Development as well as managers and development officers from the Samurdhi Authority engaging in political activities are completely false. The communique reads that officers of the Ministry of Economic Development work aiming to create a Sri Lanka without poverty and engage in their respective duties in the field. The communique issued by the Ministry of Economic Development further reads that it's
International election monitors who are in the island to observe the forthcoming provincial council polls arrived in Babunia today. They are expected to remain in the northern province until polls conclude.
Among the international monitors currently in the island are representatives from India, Nepal and Bangladesh. The group held a discussion on the elections and related activities with the Vaunia District Returning Officer at the District Secretariat today. At the discussion, Vaunia District Secretary Bandula Haris Chandra said that any complaint relating to the elections can be brought to the attention of this team of international election monitors.